give me one shot here on a blue chip stock team. Believe me, Kevin, the only problem you're gonna have is that you didn't buy more.
Nobody knows if the stock is going to go up, down, sideways, or in circles.
What's going on, NBA Draft fans? Your boys are back. The Wolves of Ball Street, the NBA Draftdaq. What? Oh, the Draftdaq NBA Draft Podcast. Bumbled that one, and we're live. Of course, I bumbled that one. I'm just so tired from a 24-hour period that we'll go into a little bit. But my name is Corey Tulaba, and I am your host here as always with my co-host, Garbage Time, Albert Gim. Albert, how are we doing today?
Dude, I have to be doing better than you, brother. Shouts to the legend Corey Tulaba, man. You were at the Garden till freaking the crack of dawn last night, and now you're back on the mic, ready to record a freaking. What are we even doing today? Some wild big board, just for fun. So yeah, I'm doing great, man. I'm ready to go. I'm excited. There's a lot going on, but this is the best time to be alive. So let's keep it going.
Hell yeah. And first, I want to shout you out because you made your first guest appearance on the Draft Capital pod. I watched some of it live, which was fun, and then I listened to the full thing on their podcast when they put it up the next day. And you did just such a phenomenal job. I'm so stoked for you that you did that. You're going to be on a whole bunch of more podcasts in the future for sure. And yeah, you were great. So shout out to you.
I appreciate it, man. Also, hey, thanks for that, Corey. But also want to thank Steven and Chris for having me on. Those guys are awesome. They're actually like really, really good. They know their stuff. They were gracious, awesome hosts. So shouts to them and their pod. And yeah, it was awesome. It was really, really good.
Yeah, shout outs to our guys from the Off the Ball Network. They do great work. Today, Albert, we are going to give our first version of a semblance of a big board. We're just going to go through like the first 14 or so guys, kind of do like a little lottery board. We've had one game in the college season so far. Some of the pros have a couple of games under their belt, but it's still so early that it's still kind of like a preseason big board. For the most part, none of the college teams have really played like adequate competition. Now, with obviously some exceptions, like you mentioned, I went to the Champions Classic at the Garden to kick off the college season. We had Michigan State versus Kansas as they were like the opening band. The stadium was kind of empty. And then moved on to Kentucky and Duke, which was, that's what everybody came to see. It was rocking, packed, the passion, the energy, just live basketball at the Garden, with two blue blood, passionate fan bases was unbelievable. But, I live on Long Island. I probably live, if there was no traffic, if I'm the only car on the road, I can get to the Garden in probably like 50 minutes from where I live, which is not bad, right? And, if I take a train, I live right by the train station, probably hour 15 on the train. And then it takes you right underneath the Garden. So like you're right there. It's very convenient. But I was like, you know what? Is there anything like worse than going to a game at Madison Square Garden, figuring out when you have to get on the train to go home, missing the train, and then having to wait like another hour until like the next train, or getting on the train and it's packed and you have to stand? I was like, fuck that shit. I'm driving in because I just want to get in my car and dip. When the games are over, it's going to be late. The Duke Kentucky game didn't start till 9:30 Eastern time. So by the time it was over, you get out of the Garden. I mean, I get to the parking garage, pay for the ticket. It was late. And then I got home pretty quick after that. But once I got home, some of you may have read the piece already. Nathan and I Nathan from the Draftdaq
Crazy.
Podcast, the No Ceilings Network. We did a little reaction piece. So then I stayed up. Probably took me like 45 minutes to type out some words. Luckily, I was able to wake up for work 4 hours later
Jesus
and
Christ.
edit it a little bit to make sure some of it made sense. But I was struggling because I had work very early, barely got any sleep. When I got home, I just passed out, like took a nap. I'm kind of more of a human being now, but I was tired, man, but totally worth it because what a game, Duke, Kentucky. We saw so much
Jesus.
that was worthwhile with these prospects from an NBA draft perspective. Even Michigan State and Kansas had some fun NBA draft stuff, but that's not where we're really going to get into, at least from, the Michigan State Kansas perspective. Maybe we'll talk about them in an honorable mention type of sense because there are some first round prospects, but the Blue Bloods were in that first game, and we'll get to those guys when the time comes. So the format of this, I think, and we're just freestyling here. We're not really doing anything too crazy. We're just going to go through the 14 guys and we're going to go back and forth, I think, and it'll be like a cumulative thing. We did this a couple of times last year, but thinking back, when did we even start the pod? Like February?
I think it was like
late?
March or April.
It was late when we started it.
Yeah.
I feel like it was a little earlier because maybe we had already March Madness. I feel like we maybe
That's true.
were there for that,
true.
but even still, it was late into the draft process for sure. Now, granted, the draft process started late. The draft wasn't until the end of November. Like, we're not even a year removed, like, from the 2020 draft yet.
Right.
And we're on 2022 right now. So everything was pushed back, delayed. It was a whole weird year. But whatever the case is, we're getting at this early this year. This is going to be, our introduction into some of these prospects. Now, if you've been rocking with us through the offseason, we've covered some of these guys in depth, but now we actually have college game film on some of these guys. And that's really exciting because it's no longer theoretical, hypothetical. Now we actually see what some of these guys look like against competition, and that's not AAU or high school. So it's a really exciting time for this podcast.
I mean, yeah, dude. You know what? I do want to say really quickly, Corey. First off, shouts to you. I don't know how you're even functioning. Even with a nap, I'd be totally out of it. But yeah, man, it is kind of crazy when you put it in those terms, like the journey that we've been on, the fact that like the 2020 draft was only like a year ago or whatever, and here we are with 2022. But I'm excited, dude. I feel like, yeah, I'm really curious to see your board and like how our boards clash because yeah, there are some guys here that I'm confused about, that I'm excited about. I'm kind of all over the place, but I'm ready to go, man. Let's get into it.
All right. Do you want to have the first or second? You want two? Okay,
Yeah,
so
I'll take two.
I'll go first. All right. I'm going to pivot away from what some of our listeners probably may think is the prospect I'm going with based on listening to the podcast in the last few months. I'm actually going to go with Chet Holmgren as the number one guy on my board.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
I pivoted away. I'm going with Chet, Gonzaga, potential unicorn big as the number one prospect in the 2022 class. The more I watched him, the more I kept just coming back to like, there's something about him that feels special. And it's obviously the tools. I mean, he's obnoxiously long. I think he's 7'2". Obviously he's going to he weighs nothing. He's, 85 pounds soaking wet. But he can really shoot it. It looks good. He can handle it. He really blocks shots. And when you stop looking at him in the context of like, all right, can he get on the block and post up and do big man stuff? And you just look at him as this new age guy who doesn't need to do that. He's really interesting. He played a cookie cutter team in his first game, but he had like an obnoxious stat line. It was like I don't know,
It's fate.
14 boards, 13 points, 6
Mhm.
assists, 6
7
blocks.
blocks.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
some, craziness. So,
Mhm.
I can't wait till he gets to the harder competition, but I think for now, I think I'm going to go with Chet at number 1.
Wow. Okay. I mean that's fair, dude. I'm actually a little bit surprised. Um just because we had such hard-ons for Hardy.
Yeah.
Um, did not think you would go Chet number one, but I can also kind of understand. For me, Corey, I'm actually, we usually agree on a lot of stuff. Not that I disagree with you either, but I actually had Chet third.
All right.
Um,
I love it.
yeah. Yeah, which is, interesting, but you know me. I'm always open to change my mind. I'm not really set on anything, but for my initial board I had Chet third, but I can also totally get why you had him first, and I think a good reason or a good something to keep in mind. I think is kind of in the back of your mind is look at Evan Mobley the first couple of
Mm,
weeks of his NBA career. It's hard
mm.
to not watch Mobley and the unbelievable success that he's having as a pro so far. I do like I know like a lot of people are talking about Evan Mobley, but I wonder if people are like really talking about Evan Mobley. Like I wonder if even like casual fans know about how freakishly good this guy's been to start his career. But I can understand like why like, you have Chet so high because Chet is obviously not the same player as Evan Mobley, but there are some really tantalizing skills there. And you can understand that he might be a real problem on the next
Mhm.
level because he does things at that size that just don't make a lot of sense. And I know he played like, who did he play yesterday? Dixie Hills? Daisy
Yeah,
Dukes? I've
I
got no,
never honestly.
no freaking idea who he played. But I mean, you're right. The stat line was unbelievable. I didn't like the high turnovers, but whatever. He's a
Yeah.
freshman. It's his first like D1 official game, so let the kid rock. There are a couple of ridiculous blocks that he had, and then like some wild one-handed outlet that he threw that was like absolutely weighted perfectly, which was awesome. So I get it. I think for me, I just have him third right now because the two guys I have ahead of him, I'm just like crazy in love with them.
Yeah.
But I totally understand it, dude.
All right. So you have the number 2 pick
Okay.
on the Draftdaq board, and I should
Mhm.
probably keep track of
Yeah.
what's happening here in
Me
some
too.
capacity.
Should definitely do
So you have number 2.
that. Yeah.
Who are you going with for the Draftdaq's big board at the number 2 pick? I'm interested to see.
Okay, Adam Silver. The second pick, I'm taking Paolo Banchero.
Mm,
And the reason why I'm taking Paolo Banchero here is because he's number one on my list. So
mm,
you and I, we both moved off of Hardy at number one. So I guess we really are aligned. But yeah, dude, I had to put Banchero number one. And you know what, Corey? To be completely honest, I actually had him number one even before last night's game
I love it.
because the more I thought about it and the more I thought about the comps that you and I went through
Yep.
when we did the Banchero pod, the more like I was falling in love with the kid. Like in my mind, there was absolutely no reason for me to be thinking like that, but I just assumed that defensively he was going to be better. I just firmly believe that what we saw in AAU in high school was not the true Paulo Banchero.
Yep.
And that kind of fleshed itself out last night. He was doing stuff defensively that I actually really enjoyed. There were a couple times that he got switched on like Xavier Wheeler or Ty Washington, and he was not getting ripped to shreds. He did a
Right.
pretty good job staying in front of them. And even on the interior, I thought he did some nice things, except, I mean, that kid, Shibwe or whatever,
Yeah. He was.
what is he? Like, is he just like a gigantic Reggie Evans? Like, I could not understand
That's
how many.
that's a good comp. I don't think we're going to cover him on this podcast in depth
Yeah,
necessarily. Who knows
yeah.
though, right? But that's a pretty good comp
I
based
mean,
on,
yeah,
what he was doing
it's a
yesterday.
freaking 10-foot tall Reggie Evans and grabbing every offensive board. It literally made no sense to me. But Banchero was unbelievable, and I think the tools that he has at 6'10" with the strength and the body that he has, it's unbelievable. And we talked about the passing that I didn't think he really got to show off last night against a really tough Kentucky team. And shouts to Kentucky. Like, I don't know, like I haven't heard any hot takes or watched any TV or seen what people have said, but I thought Kentucky played pretty well too, man. Like, I know Ty didn't put up big numbers, but I really liked what I saw from Ty Washington. I know you were there, Corey. I'm sure you have thoughts on that. But anyway, let me stop there and just say I have Banchero number 1 because I think the mix of tools and size and height and all these things, he's just terrifying. So I've got Banchero number 1, so I'm going to take him number 2 here.
I love it. I mean, I really struggled not putting him 1 after seeing him live last night. He was a sight to behold live, and he has it, that look. He's got the aura like, yo, I'm the fucking dude. It's me. Duke across the chest. Coach K's farewell tour. I'm the guy you remember when we win that last national championship for K. 20 years from now, that's the video that played. He's got the look, the confidence. He's knocking down shots. He's shaking his head like, these guys serious right now? For real? You think you can guard me one-on-one? Are you crazy? I mean, I'm telling. So I started out first half. I was sitting on the Chase Bridge, which was the first time I sat up there. It was actually awesome.
It's really high up.
But you have such a good view of the court, and it's not as high up as it seems. So the first half I was watching from there, and I had Duke closest to me where I was sitting. And when Paulo did the first like spin move, like isolation spin move, and he got fouled, I was like,
dear God.
I was like, oh my God. I was like, no one's around me, but somebody is going to have to resuscitate me if he keeps doing this. Like, I might fall off the Chase Bridge because I can't control what my body is trying to do. It was special. And the second half, I got a little upgrade, got to move down to the 100 level. So I was right, probably 15 rows up, center court. And
wow.
Seeing him even closer, I was like, wow, he's a monster. Like, physically, he is every bit of the 6'10", 250, but he's lean, man. There were times where in some of those high school games, he looked a little like lumbering, like he was thick, but he's so lean and fit and just like built to play in the NBA now. It's hard. It's going to be hard to not move him number 1 on my board if he ends up being like a 2010 4 guy. And then I just got to see, because a lot of the things that I had questions about based on the high school film, which I think we both kind of thought like, hey, it's high school. The effort isn't going to necessarily be there like it will in college. He answered that. It's 1 game though. So I'm going to wait and see if he can continue to just go and be the guy, because he's got the look of it. Like almost like special where I know people are kind of like, is there any like tier 1 prospect in this class? And it looks like maybe there's more than one, but it looks like he certainly belongs in that tier.
Big time.
Yeah. So
big time. Yeah.
All right.
Freak, dude.
Number 3. I'm going to go with our guy, Jayden Hardy of the J League Ignite.
He's back.
He's back. I can't free fall him down the draft board because he struggled in 2 games. Now he's not looked very good. He's struggling to make the reads and the decisions, and I'm not even worried about the shot making, because that, make or miss, like, he's a good shooter. I think we have evidence of that. But the processing, the space creation's a little iffy at times. I'm not panicking. After the first episode we did, I believe, was on the G League. And I think we had just watched the debut, and
That's
Jalen
so
Green
true.
couldn't get by Nico Mannion.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing.
And we were like, and Kuminga, meanwhile, looked like LeBron. And that's the problem with sample sizes. If that was the only game that you watched, you were going to be like, how is Jonathan Kuminga not the number 1 pick? And why is Jalen Green even going to get drafted? So I'm not panicking 2 games in, especially because unlike Jalen Green, who had like Jarrett Jack and Amir Johnson and these vets had
Bobby Brown. Yeah.
Bobby Brown, right? Kuminga, at least to take the pressure off offensively, is another option. Even Dacian Nix,
Right.
who at least was more of like a point guard. There's no Dyson Daniels is not like a pure point guard. I think he's got he's got a little bit of a tougher situation than the guys did last year. So I'm not panicking, and I think he's going to turn around, put it together, but it's going to be slow and it's going to be a lot of projection. But I still believe in that elite scoring shot making package. And when he starts confidently knocking down shots, I think it's going to open up a lot of the other things. And there's been flashes, some nice passes here and there. So I can't free fall him down the board yet. It's way too early, and I have to keep him at 3rd.
Yeah, dude, I'm with you. I have him 2nd on my board. I'm still in love with the guy. I still think he's going to be unbelievably good. I haven't dove like full on head first into the G League stuff yet, which is why shouts to our boys Nate and Tyler Rucker for giving me crap about not being on the Draft Deeper pod this week. But I love you guys. It's okay. I love you guys. But yeah, I think just from what I've seen so far from Hardy, though, yeah, it's kind of, I'm not too shocked or too concerned. Some of the decision making is a little slower, but then some of the interior passes on drives have been cool. Yeah. Those have been nice. I think he just needs time to grow, is what I think. It's been a long time since he's played. I'm not too worried. And ultimately, I think you and I are on the same page. Like, the skill's unbelievable. So let's give him some time. I think he'll be all right. And so, yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. And I'll transition into number 4, right? Is this our 4th pick?
This is our 4th pick.
That's our
number 4 on the big board.
I'm going to go on a limb here and say we have the same guy at number 4.
I think so.
I'm hoping we do. My guy is Patrick Baldwin Jr. Yep, there it is. Okay,
that's who I got. PBJ.
Exactly. I mean, it's where he deserves to be. He's what, 6'9", 6'10"? I think he's 6'10" now. I know he's listed at 6'9".
Man.
It's stupid how tall he is. And like you know something, Corey, that I regret saying? Yeah, exactly. So on the pod, I was saying like, oh, I want him to add more mass. And then like I saw him play a couple games. I'm like, yeah, like maybe I shouldn't have said that. This kid is like pretty brolic already. You see it in his shoulders. The kid has nice shoulders, and you can tell that he's just gonna fill out even more, I think. Or maybe even like, I don't know, maybe he doesn't fill out, but I just he's a physical specimen already. But the shooting looks freaking beautiful. I think it's going to be, as you've mentioned, and I actually wrote about Patrick Baldwin Jr. That'll be dropping soon. But the passing is there. Obviously, he's not a power level passer. I don't think he's some elite passer, but I'm really excited to see him try. Like, that's going to be really fun to watch. He's going to try different things. Him going to Milwaukee gives him the freedom and the license to do stuff. Hopefully he doesn't do anything else, like weird stuff off the court. It can get a little boring in Milwaukee.
Milwaukee's a beautiful city.
Is it?
It's a beautiful. I mean, it's going to be cold, so it's going to be awful, like during the season. But when it's nice in Milwaukee, it's beautiful. Like on the water, great city. If you like beer, they have that.
Okay.
Like most places, but they got some good beer stuff. But yeah, it's a really, really nice city.
Okay, so it's not Cleveland, is what you're saying.
I'd rather spend time in Milwaukee.
But anyway, that sounds beautiful. But I'm really hoping PBJ just stays in the gym. I'm hoping he continues to work on his craft, and he just because like the size and the shooting and the passing and the handle and the weak side defense is unbelievable, dude.
Yeah.
He's going to be freaking unbelievable next year. So, or sorry, this year, and even going into the league, it's weird. He's a gigantic shooter. And
Yep.
I think he's going to show a little bit more than that. So he's easily number 4 for me. And it's like, I think 1 to 3 are in their own bracket. And then this might just be a me thing, but I think PBJ is in his own bracket after that. Because the guys that I have after him have like a half tier below PBJ, if that makes sense. But yeah.
I think that PBJ could make his way to the back of the tier. Like for me, like if Hardy continues, like if Paolo and Chet separate, I think he could work his way into like the Hardy tier. Now, if Hardy starts knocking down shots like he showed in high school, then maybe that's a different story. But also, PBJ, like the dude's size matters. And even if he doesn't become this gigantic Tyler Hero or, whatever kind of prospect you want to compare him to, a lot of people are comparing him to Michael Porter Jr. He could fit on any roster, and that's such a beautiful thing to get in a prospect with his skill set and talent and size and height, because it's like he could be this role player who's like way too good to be a role player. And he's like he could be a superstar role player for you. And that could be like where he could get going and be a number 1 option at times. And then he could also like play off of whoever your star is. Like, I don't think there's a star in the league that it's going to be like, how is Patrick Baldwin Jr. not like going to fit with this guy? You know what I mean? And I think that's valuable.
Sounds like Clay.
Yeah. Like, I mean, let's hope that Clay comes back healthy, right? I miss watching that guy play basketball.
Yeah.
But yeah, so far he's looked great. He's shot it well on the on the ball, off the ball, the movement stuff. It's all there for him. And at number 5, transitioning into number 5, mentioning Clay, I see a little bit of Clay in this next guy. I'm going to take Caleb Houston.
Wow. I love that.
I really like Houston's game. And I don't know how much he's going to pop in college from like a statistical perspective, because I think he's going to be a guy who plays his role for a really good Michigan team. But I think he's got an awesome skill set, and his stroke is pure, and the way he moves is just kinesthetically, that's my thing. It reminds me so much of Clay, how he, even when he's like going to the hoop for a layup, it kind of reminds me of the way he moves, but the way he sets up, he's always on balance. Like, I love it. I'm in. I love Houston. That's my number 5 guy right now.
Damn. That's a really good one. I had Houston actually 6th on my board, so
Okay.
I think you and I are pretty much aligned on that one. I actually really love what you said about him, dude. You said Clay. He reminds me of a guy who has a very similar last name to him, but spelled differently, in Allen Houston.
Ooh.
Yeah, he reminds me a little bit of H2O, because now their shooting forms are different, of course. But
Yes.
the reason why I thought of Allen Houston was because like I thought of like 02, 03 Allen Houston, when by then like Howard Isley and Charlie Ward were like their backups, and they went like with the bigger lineup with Houston and Sprewell sharing the ball handling duties. Like I thought of Caleb Houston in that type of form, where I think the kid is like, he's going to do a lot more than just be a shooter. He's going to be able to do a little bit off the dribble, and just, he's such a beautiful player. And as you mentioned, like he moves so fluidly, which is actually something I wrote about when I wrote about Houston too. So I'm with you, dude. I had Houston number 6, so him going 5 is golden. And for number 6 on our board is a guy that I think you love, that I think you're gonna be happy with. I took Peyton Watson here.
Oh,
Yeah,
let's go.
yeah. Maybe he's too high. I don't know, but from what I've seen,
No, I had him 7 actually.
okay,
Which
cool.
I think I've moved him up recently.
Okay.
From where I started with him. But yeah, no, tell me about Peyton
Mhm.
Watson. What is it about him?
I mean, we talked about Caleb Houston and how he moves, Peyton Watson and how he moves. Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. I was watching. I mean, yeah, the dude, like, I love his work rate. The guy seems to be ferocious. The shooting, we'll see, right, Corey? I mean, how do you feel about the shooting? I feel
I'm not in love with the shooting.
me too.
Let me tell you
it's a
something.
big question mark.
If he was shooting it, he would be in that first tier.
Exactly.
He would be in the first tier.
Which is why it's like, dang, like I really wrestled with Jabari Smith too, because that dude can shoot it. But yeah, Watson, I love the athleticism, the fluidity, the freaking ferociousness. This guy does he get tired? I don't know. He's crazy. I really, really enjoyed Peyton Watson, and I want to see how he plays at UCLA. I did not get to watch him yet, but I'm really excited for that because I mean, if he pops with Juzang and the rest of that team, that's a really interesting team, and Watson becomes really, really interesting.
I just want to shout out because he's not going to be in the top 14 board. I don't think. Maybe you shock me, which I would absolutely love. I'm already feeling it with Jaquez Jr.
Okay.
I'm getting it going. Like, I'm like, all right, how far can I realistically put him up my board by the end of this process?
Wow.
I just love watching that kid play basketball. Absolute worst facial hair going right now. But as a basketball player, he does some stuff that I'm just like, yeah, man. Like, he to me is the prime, like, who is the Duarte type guy in this class. And to me, he initially where we're at in this part of the season, he's my guy for that kind of older prospect, upperclassman. Is he just older than everybody and more experienced, or is he really that good? He's that for me right now. I'm riding hard for that dude right now.
Yeah, he's a big dude too, right? He's like 6'7".
He's big,
right?
dude.
Big dude. So I'm with you on that.
A little bit underrated bounce.
Good
feel. Good motor. I like it.
Corey's got his guy. You found your guy. That's what it is.
Yeah. I'm gonna with the NIL rules. If UCLA sells some the jerseys, I might pick one up. You know.
Ooh. Hey, I'm gonna see them play in person. Maybe I'll grab one for you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah. So let's go back to Watson. Sticking with UCLA.
Yeah.
Because I said this in the chat. I think. I don't know if it was like the no ceilings chat or if it was, between like me, you, and Rucker, and like, we have the way that he defends, and he's smaller, but the way that he moves, and I'm not comparing him fully because he's not nearly as fully gifted skill set wise. He really reminds me of Anthony Davis. Now, Anthony Davis he's bigger, he's taller, he's stronger, but the way that he moves defensively, the way he blocks shots, even the way he dribbles, the way he gets into his dunk package, like the way he moves on the court. And if you're telling me that like you can and I even think that he showed like some flashes of like, oh, you could run some pick and roll and let him kind of operate as like a passer. Now, once teams start going under on his jumper, because he's very far away as a jump shooter, it's a different story, but he's also not going to get a ton of on-ball reps like that with this UCLA team because he's just like, hey, get out in transition, backdoor cuts, and, do some dirty work, defend, and that's how you're going to stay on the floor because UCLA is a really good college team. Like, they have a chance, I think, to win it all.
Yeah.
That's not like a controversial take. Had a deep run last year, and they brought like everyone back. But I just love his tools, his skill set. And I think if like looking at guys like Scotty Barnes, guys like Patrick Williams, and you're looking at like these long, toolsy, gifted, athletic basketball players like bet on those guys, and I think Watson's a bet on him kind of guy.
Yeah, dude, I'm with you. One thing we have to talk, I didn't get to mention his playmaking. The guy, he's got some
Yeah.
playmaking to him. Yeah, I mean, if you have those skills at that size, you mentioned he's not gigantic. I think he's like listed at like 6'8", right?
Yeah.
But the work rate is there, the athleticism is there. What as I mentioned before, the shootings are huge question mark. We
Mhm.
will see, and it's like weird that I have him so high up on my board, considering like I'm so biased to shooters and I love my
Right.
shooters so much. I mean, we both do, but there's something about him, like that
Yeah.
infectious energy that he has, and I'm like, this guy's gonna be. I just think he's gonna be good. Like he's gonna figure it out one way or
Impactful.
another. Yeah, it's like that palpable energy. So yeah, dude. I had Peyton Watson 5th on my board, and I took him 6th year. So I think it's pretty fair. I hope I don't regret it later, but yeah.
I mean, that's the thing about doing this so early and doing it as the first version. We're not setting anything in stone. This is not our final board before they're not getting drafted tomorrow. We get to see. But I love the role that he's in because he has so many guys to learn from in front of him that he doesn't have to like come in with expectations of like this guy is going to be a superstar player in the NBA because he's learning how to be a role player at UCLA, and I love that for him. All right,
Yeah.
so number 7 for me, and had like a very quiet debut last night, coming off of a little injury. That's a big question mark for me going forward. I have AJ Griffin. And I'm just buying the long-term talent of him. He reminds me a lot of the like Jimmy Butler,
Yes.
Jalen Brown type of wings that find success in the NBA. And with the Jimmy Butler stuff, it's down to the number and the oversized, untucked jersey. Like he has been studying Jimmy Butler's mannerisms and I'm watching him and just like this looks like Jimmy Butler is wearing a Duke jersey or a Stepanik jersey, Archbishop. Like he just looks like Jimmy Butler on the court.
Right.
Jimmy Butler is Jimmy Butler because he has one of the greatest work ethics of all time and a hunger and the way he was brought up as a kid and everything he dealt with. That made Jimmy Butler Jimmy Butler. But I think AJ Griffin has that kind of talent. He's athletic. He can shoot it. He's all these skills. And even though he, had all of this hype, potential top 10 pick coming in, dad was an NBA player, coach, so he's got the pedigree. He didn't force anything last night. Like, oh, Paolo's getting his. Like, I got to go get mine. He played within himself, within the team structure, and didn't try to break out of it because as much as Duke was in control, it's still, Kentucky made a run at the end and they closed the gap. And, if guys started looking for theirs, it very easily could have just flipped. So it's one game, like I said, it's a sample size. It's not enough for me to be like, oh, he's going to average 2 points the rest of the way. Like, I think he's going to be just fine. And unlike a lot of these other teams, he didn't play some made up college somewhere. He played Kentucky at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
So I'm keeping him up as a high level prospect.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't play Dixon City or I've literally never heard of that school in my life, Corey.
Ever. It literally sounds like what you would name like a team if you were remaking Friday Night Lights. Like they play for Dixon.
What's that town in Long Island? Hicksville.
Hicksville.
That's
what a name.
Oh God, Hicksville. But okay. AJ Griffin. I like it, dude. I had him 9th on my list. Jimmy Butler comes to mind because of his physique too. He kind of has one of those long torso, shorter legs guys, and he's ridiculously jacked for his age. It makes no sense. Like when he stepped on the court yesterday and he like wasn't even flexing, and
Yo,
his
his
arms were
traps
like,
are ridiculous.
dude, crazy, and they're like veins popping and everything. It was unbelievable. But I'm with you. I like him a lot. I'm interested to see how he kind of trusts his body again.
Mhm.
He's had so many injuries, and
Yeah.
he came back really quickly from this knee injury. I want to see if he's able to really trust his knee and put a lot of wear and tear and pressure on it, because there's a real opportunity there for him to do a lot on that Duke team, and it's a fun team. That Duke team's really fun. I
They're
mean,
good, man.
Keels, he was unbelievable last night.
Unreal.
Yeah, it was awesome. So,
He plays like
and
that the rest of the way, and not even the
it's
scoring.
over.
He's
It's
a
over.
lottery. He's a lottery
Yeah.
pick.
Yeah, he's awesome. And also, I saw like people were giving like Mark Williams some crap, but I didn't hate
I thought
it.
he was fine.
Yeah, me too. I thought
Yeah,
he was
he was
fine, and
that's
yeah,
why I wrote about him as potentially like the guy that could quote unquote disappoint
yeah.
in our no ceilings preview.
Mhm.
Cuz like this is what he's going to do. Like he is
Yeah.
going to be a dive man, a
Mhm.
garbage man, and he's going to block shots.
Yeah.
And
I mean, yeah.
sometimes and what a young shot blockers get in trouble for. Fouls.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen to this kid. So,
Mhm.
he's going to have days where he doesn't get in foul trouble and he looks tremendous. And then he's going to have days where he's in foul trouble and it's like you forget that he's there because he's been sitting on the bench for 15 minutes. It's how it's going to go. But I thought when he did make plays, it was very impressive. And seeing him in
Yeah.
person, he's huge. And
He's
his arms
huge.
are his wingspan's 7'7", I think.
Yeah. He's a freak, dude.
Yeah.
He's a freak.
I was not disappointed by him yesterday.
Mhm.
He is as I expected for me personally.
Yeah, me too. He had like a sick block on, I think it was Severe Wheeler or whatever. But yeah, he looks awesome to me. But anyway, that Duke team looks fun. I'm with you on AJ Griffin. I think he's going to be good. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch. The health thing is the biggest thing for me.
Yeah.
For sure. We're on number 8 now, right?
We are on number 8, yes.
Perfect. Okay, so I have the 8th pick, and this guy was 8th on my board. This might be, I don't know, people may not like this. People might say he's too high. I've seen him like way higher on other boards, but I'm not really here to agree with everybody else. I just really like, yeah, I love this guy. There's something about it. I'm just really like,
I think I know where you're going with it, and
yeah,
I can't wait for you to say it.
but it's stupid because I just love my Kentucky guards. So maybe this is like just a me problem.
Pivot. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I love my Oregon guards. I love my Kentucky guards. And so
Okay.
I have Ty Washington here
All
at
right.
number 8.
Okay.
I've seen Ty as high as like 20 something on other people's boards. But for me, with Ty, it's as simple as this. Like, I just really like smart players. I've always liked really intellectually smart players. And Ty is a guy who seems to play the game at like 1.5 speed. He's a guy who doesn't ever seem phased. He seems really calm. And I've seen a lot of people talk about him as being this like poised player. And I think it's true. I think it fleshes itself out. Even yesterday, he was having a really hard time because he was being guarded by Keels and all these like really, Wendell Moore was on him too. They gave him a really hard time. But at the same time, he was doing his thing. I really like him, and I think it's cool that Calipari is going to trust him with a lot of playmaking. Now, of course, Wheeler got a big brunt of the playmaking, which was hot and cold. But when Wheeler's on the bench, it looks like Calipari is just going to go with Ty as his secondary point guard when Wheeler's on the bench, and I like it. I really do. I like the passing. I like the shooting. I like when he goes to the rim. I like that he can draw fouls. He's a really pure looking shooter to me. Like, obviously, I don't think he's the sniper on the level of like a Caleb Houston or a Hardy or a freaking, who am I missing here? Patrick Baldwin. But I think he's a really good shooter. And I like the playmaking. I like the savvy. He's kind of like a, what do you think? He's like a 1.5. He's like a combo guard.
Yeah.
He's not too small, not too big. He's kind of perfect in that way. I like Ty a lot. I had him number 8 on my board, and I feel comfortable taking him number 8 here.
Yeah, so he struggled yesterday with his shooting, right? And like you mentioned, he was actually guarded by legit guys. Like, he wasn't, again, playing Dixie. He was playing Duke. And
Right.
he had legit guys covering him. So you got to be patient with that. You can't like have him free fall if you believe in him in the preseason. I really like his form. I like his shot making ability. I like that, like he's 1.5. He could play on or off the ball. And I think it's beneficial that he isn't on the ball all the time. Because the one thing I worry about with him, and I'll tell you, I worry about his handle. To me, it's really loose. And it feels like, I don't know, maybe he has like really small hands, potentially. He doesn't have it on the string. And when he's creating space, I think like he really struggled with it yesterday. And again, against good defenses, but he struggled to create space. And so like when he does create space, he's taking these dribble jumpers. And I think that's his bread and butter. But I wonder if he can leverage that to get to the rim. And that's going to be what, for me, shows me is like, is he a guy I could have in my lottery? Because right now I do have him down more towards like the 20s rather than towards 10. And I had him that way before yesterday's game. And it's all because of the handle. Now, another thing. Kentucky guards have not looked great at Kentucky over the last X amount of years, right? And then they go to the NBA and they look more comfortable in a more open, free-flowing kind of offense. And I could totally see that happening with Ty too, because the way when he does shoot, when he gets into his shot, it's an NBA shot. So I totally am like on board with him getting better and projecting better than what he looked like last night. But I got to see him consistently create space with his handle, because I that's the one thing that I struggled with yesterday.
Yeah, that's fair. That is fair.
All right, so number 9. I'm going to go with Jabari Smith. I am buying in on Jabari Smith. He played their game yesterday. He was on fire, and not like on fire like, oh, he's hitting every shot he takes, although he did, shoot well. His personality. He was like clapping defensively. He was pumping up the crowd, waving them on with their arms, like get up, like get loud. And then he was getting on the perimeter. He was getting down in his stance, getting long. He, I look at him like, wow, like, yeah, this kid's fucking good. He can make an impact. And I've been comparing him to like a modern day Taj Gibson. And on the surface, it kind of seems like a slight to him, because I don't know if people, casual NBA fans realize how freaking good or how impactful Taj Gibson was at his peak. And there's a reason that he is still a rotation member of a good team, because he's a really good basketball player, even in his twilight years. He just can't go for 35 minutes a night anymore. But he had a lot of the same skill set. He just didn't have the range that I think Jabari is going to have. But the tenacity, the fire, the ability to put you on a poster, guard the perimeter, play smart, pass the ball a little bit, not serve as any kind of primary creator. But he was like, he reminds me of like a little bit of like a modern day Taj Gibson mixed with a little bit of the stuff that like Jaren Jackson does. But more so Taj than Jaren Jackson. But I'm in. I loved how he played. And I think that Auburn team is actually going to be pretty fun to watch. More fun than last year, especially when Flanagan comes back.
I'm with you. The Gibson one is interesting. I'm trying to send my brain back to when Taj was on the Bulls and the defensive impact that he had. And it wasn't like just like rim protection or post defense, but his versatility as a defender and the way that he can move his feet and stay in front of guards. That stuff was unbelievable. Little 16 to 18 foot jumper. But doesn't get to do that as much on the Knicks anymore, which is fine.
Yeah.
Taj is still a really important part of our Knicks team. I love it. I'm with you, dude. I like it. The shooting is what interests me the most, of course.
Yep.
Right. We're staying on brand here.
Yeah.
He hit some nice looking threes yesterday. And you
He
mentioned
did.
Jaren Jackson Jr. And I like his form like a lot better than I liked Jaren Jackson's shooting form. So yeah, I'm with you. I like Jabari a lot. Good size at 6'10".
Thick too.
Exactly. He's not Chet at all.
He's not Jalen Durham, but he's a good size for a modern 4. 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, dude, I'm definitely with you. Jabari is going to be somebody to watch, obviously, throughout the season. I'm excited to see him grow in those areas that you're talking about, as I am with all these prospects. But yeah, I love that. I love that at all. And you just mentioned the guy I'm going to take next because I actually have him a lot higher and I forgot to take him. So maybe this worked out, but I'm going to take Jalen Durham here. I think he's fallen enough.
Yeah.
I saw somebody say that he was Dwight Howard 2.0. I didn't like that. I don't know. Like, I think Durham is huge.
Nate said that.
Oh, was it? I'm sorry.
I think Nathan said that.
I apologize. No. No hate for you, Nate. I'm sorry. I don't see that because I think Dwight's a little bigger. Although Durham is huge, I just remember Dwight being bigger, just like a little bit more physically imposing and jumping a little bit higher.
I think it's the bounce.
Yeah.
Dwight was an unbelievable athlete.
He was. Yeah. I don't see that with Durham. I think Durham is ripped and he jumps high enough, but he's not Dwight for me. Sorry, Nate. But Durham's gonna be freaking good. Like, this guy is scary. Like, he's got some stuff to him. And we talked about him a little bit back in the summer, right? And we talked about, the areas that he needs to work on. Like, obviously offensively, like, let's see what happens here. But as a defender, as just a freaking brick house, at the backbone of your defense, like, there's value there. And he is athletic. Like, once again, I think you and we agree that he's not Dwight athletically, but that doesn't mean he's not athletic. He's unbelievably athletic. And I think on that Memphis team, it's going to be interesting to watch how he builds that rapport with Imani Bates, because in game 1, Imani Bates came out slanging that thing. So, he was just, wow, balls to the walls. He's just chucking it up there. But it looked good too, man. Shouts to Imani Bates. Like, I'm almost like, I'm rooting for the kid now. I want him to be awesome now. But yeah, anyway, Durham, I like. And this is as far as he drops for me. So I'm going to take Durham here. And I'm excited to see how he continues to grow playing with Imani this year. Did I lose you?
Prospects that we talked about, Montero. But I really think that he has, like, from a guard perspective, he has so much of, like, the creation and shot making ability that I think that he has this interesting skill set that if he pops, if he makes it, then he's going to be a really interesting, intriguing scorer from that position in the league with, like, some playmaking chops. It's going to be hard as hell to figure out if that's real this year with the overtime elite program. I don't know about this thing, man. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out throughout the whole year, but there are parts of it that I'm just like, what are we watching? What are we doing? What's going on? But I think just his raw talent, I think he'll be a project, because I don't think teams will necessarily feel comfortable enough just giving him the keys unless he goes to a team like a OKC, which even then, they have all those guards. They're not going to give him the keys. But that type of situation where it's like, they just want to get their young guys experience. But he's interesting. Montero, he intrigues me very much, and I like his shot making package. So I'm willing to take the chance at this part of the draft with all those other guys, kind of taken by now. Which there's one other guy that I kind of was like, I don't know. This is the riskier pick than this other guy who I watched today that I'm coming around on more so. But I'll stick with Montero for now, and that's why this is the first version of the board.
Gotcha. Okay, I think we got disconnected for a second. I kind of missed the first part of what you
we got disconnected a little bit. Hopefully the audio recorded.
Got it. Yeah, hopefully. But I did hear the tail end, and I figured out you were talking about G Montero. I'm with you, dude. I'm with you. I think he's really interesting. I didn't have him this high up my board, but I think it's more a matter of just me not having enough exposure of him yet.
Yeah.
So yeah, the more exposure of him I get, the more I'll be able to kind of get a better idea of him as a player. For me at this point, what pick am I at now? 10?
We're 12.
Oh my goodness. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry. 12. Okay. Then I had him number 10 on my board. So perfect time to take. I'm taking Jayden Ivey here.
Okay.
Yeah, I like Ivy a lot. I talked about him on the pod with Draft Capital last weekend. But he's a guy that I'm really interested to see. Like, I loved him in the U19s. I thought he played with great energy. I loved how he was playing on and off the ball, and he was making some beautiful cuts, like weak side or wherever. And I was really happy watching him play. I think the shooting has already improved a lot, and I'm excited to see him continue to work on that and grow in that. I just don't think he's an elite passer at all. I think the passing is obviously lacking there a little bit, but overall, as a combo guard, as a guy who could play on and off the ball, I like him a lot, dude. I think I like the athleticism. I like the grit and the intensity that he plays with, and defensively too. I think he shows that on that end as well. So I like Ivy a lot, actually. So I have him in my top 10, and taking him here feels good to me.
Yeah, this feels like a good spot for him. I have him a few spots lower, but not much. I have him in my lottery. He reminds me a lot of the young, raw version of Zach LaVine.
Oh, that's nice.
He's got crazy bounce, at the athleticism, the ability to just put the burners on, but it's not necessarily the smoothest, but it still is very smooth at the same time. I don't even know how to explain it. And then he's got the shot creation ability. I think Zach LaVine's a way better shooter and always has looked the part of being the better shooter, even if it hasn't always been the most efficient. Although now he's, one of the most efficient guards in the entire NBA.
Right.
So it's all up to Ivy as to how hard he's going to continue to work on his game. It seems like he will, but he's one of these guys, if you can get him at this part of the draft, if it booms, it's like a franchise altering guy that you can get at this part of the draft. So his progress this year is going to be unbelievably important and to check in on. And I think I'm going to try to see him live when they play Rutgers. They play Rutgers a couple. One of my former players is a team manager right now for Rutgers, so he's like, yeah, let me know, when you want to go to a games, and I'll try to get you the hookup. Unfortunately, I can't go to the Michigan game when they're playing Michigan, but I'm going to try to get to Purdue to see them. 13, I'm going to take Kennedy Chandler.
Oh, okay.
And honestly, this is who I thought you were going with a little bit earlier when you went with Ty. So I watched the Chandler game from yesterday. And again, they were playing UT something, some place, whatever, I think.
Slytherin.
Yeah, they were playing Slytherin House. No, not even. That would have been the tough team to play. They were playing
That's true.
the Hufflepuff. And
some off-campus school.
Yeah, they're playing the Irish the Irish Magic school. And not even the Irish, like the Scottish. Wales. But I think that Chandler's the best point guard in the draft. Now, there are other guards that play the one in the draft that maybe you take ahead of him. Like I went with Montero ahead of him for now. I think you went with Ty, who we said is like a 1.5. But as far as like your dad's point guard, he's that version of what a point guard is, like run the offense, make plays at a pick and roll. In transition, he's unbelievably fun. He's shooting the shit out of the ball right now. Now, a lot of it is like yesterday, guys were going under and he's stepping into these wide open shots. He pulled it from the logo at one point, so that was, he's got the range, but again, wide open shot. I'm wondering what his shooting is going to look like when people play up on him, go over on screens, and he's got to create and get his shot off with a defender in his face. I thought that in the half court, he had a little bit of trouble finishing through contact.
Mm-hmm.
In transition, it looked great because he's got guys on their heels and he's such a devastating player in that scenario. So I have some questions with him still because he's tiny. I think he's listed at 6 foot, and
no shot.
He doesn't look it. He is for his height. He's a little, his body. He's not like slight. Like he probably weighs more than Chet does. And he's not like jacked up like Davion either. But he's like a good, like Chris Paul, like body type.
Right.
But Chris Paul is bigger, I think.
Yeah, the fire hydrant, Chris Paul.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I love the pace that he plays with. I love how he runs the offense. I definitely like watching this Tennessee team better than last year's version that everybody on Draft Twitter fell in love with. I like watching Kennedy Chandler a lot. That kid's he's a really good player. Now another question, because I mentioned a few of these issues. Like you see a lot of these guards, the rules changed in the NBA, and the NBA is a little bit more physical, and it's a little bit more these guards trying have to figure out how to adapt. And if like guys like Dame and James Harden and Trae Young are having this issue with the new physicality of the league, how is somebody like Kennedy Chandler, who I don't believe is in that same tier of prospect, going to come in, and is he a starting level guard in this scenario? And that's why I kind of have him more in this range now. And I've moved him up my board to get him here because I am impressed with all that other stuff. But those are my questions for him.
To be honest, for me, I'm actually surprised you have him up here. I get it though, just because he did show off some stuff. But for me, he's so small.
He's so small.
That stuff that concerns me, dude. And like we
I'm
even wrote
concerned.
about like, yeah, no, exactly, yeah. Sorry, both of us. But
he was the guy in my article I wrote that I'm being cautious with.
Yeah. Even like Max Abmas, that dude, tiny, little dude.
I think Chandler's got a better physical frame.
Yeah. But I get it though. Like what you said about like the quintessential point guard, he definitely has that, dude. He's gonna be able to run your offense and do that stuff. But I just the size is the only thing that bothers me. And you mentioned the shooting. Yeah, what do you go, like 4 for 4 last night from 3? So
yeah, he was 7 for 10, I think, overall. But like looking deeper at it and not just box score watching, it's like, all right,
wide open.
Half court finishes he had trouble with amongst the trees against college guys.
Yeah.
So, but again, small sample. Yeah. I'm not hitting the panic button. And the other stuff that he did, I was like, all right, he's a safe bet at this part compared to where some of these other guys are at. It's not saying I'm not saying he's gonna stay here, and I'm not saying that he's not gonna rise up my board more. I could see it going either way
Yeah.
by the end of the draft. But right now, I feel safe in this part of the draft for him because I do think I just like how he runs an offense. And even if that means he's like a Jalen Brunson kind of backup guard, that could still be valuable even if it's like just in a limited capacity and he's not going to be some starting level point guard. And I think if you get that here, that's, pretty worthwhile.
That's true. Yeah, I think I think you bringing up Brunson is a good one. I think those guys are worth it. Like, who's the guy on the Spurs? Trey Jones, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you like those guys. Those guys are good. They're important. You
Mm.
need a good point guard off the bench. So I don't mind that at all. So I'm with you. I think this is a good spot. My guy at 14, I really wrestled between a couple of guys, but I'm just gonna go with him because I wrote about him for my column tomorrow. So I'm gonna go with Max Christie.
Okay.
I like Christie, dude. I like Christie a lot. When I wrote on my art, I'm kind of like, I don't want to spoil my thing too much, but I compared him to Malik Monk. He reminds me a little bit of Malik Monk in terms of like the shooting form and like the slim, skinny physique with the long arms, and he's got some good athleticism to him. Obviously, he's not a carbon copy of Malik Monk, but yeah, I like Max Christie a lot. Where I'm worried about with him is defensively. I didn't love some of the stuff that I saw from him defensively, but I mean, if you're going to get better at defense, one of the best places to go in the country is Michigan State. Tom Izzo's going to nail that in him, and he's going to get better as a defender. So I feel like he's in a really good situation. My only concern from the first game was like he did a lot of sitting in the corner, which is what I don't want to see from him because I think he has the handle and the ability to do more than just stand in the corner. Some of his mid-range stuff was really pretty in high school where I was like, I want to see a lot more of that.
Yes.
So I'm really hoping that, that he gets more of an opportunity to do that with Michigan State. But the guy is good. And like even defensively, I know in high school he had a lot of like highlight, weak side blocks, but he's got to grow a lot defensively. I really didn't like his feet. I thought he has to do a better job of, like I think he's really going to struggle against guards like a Kennedy Chandler. I think quicker, smaller guards are just going to blow right by him. So I'm really hoping he works on that. And it doesn't mean he can't, right? Once again, he's in a great situation to improve upon that. So this feels like a good spot for me with Christie because even in my thing, like I think he could get up here. Like I really do think he can get to the end of the lottery. I mean, if he has an unbelievable season, maybe even higher. But I'm really high on him. I mean, I didn't even mention the shooting. That's his calling card. The kid can absolutely gun it. A beautiful looking jump shot. He can do it off the move. He could do it in all. He really is like a 3-level type of scorer. I love it. So I'm gonna go with Max Christie here.
I think it's an interesting selection. I have him not too far down in my rankings, actually. I don't have him yet as a lottery guy, but I as well can see him being kind of like the Trey Murphy kind of prospect who climbs up boards in that regard. Now, Trey Murphy's defense was on another level. He's a little older, but seeing Christie in person, like you mentioned that he was like skinny and long, like kind of like a bigger Malik Monk. I got to tell you, I was very impressed with his body physically seeing him live. His legs, he does not have skinny legs.
Okay.
Like he's got like some home run hitting legs. Like they looked pretty thick to me. Now his length stood out, and what I liked about him defensively is that he uses his length and he gets like he'll have his hand out, his arms wide, and I think that even though he doesn't have like the quickness necessarily that you want on the perimeter, like those feet to shuffle, like an elite wing defender, he does have that length that allows him to recover and contest shots and make things difficult at times. So defensively, is he going to be locked down this year? I don't think so, but I do like his size and I like his skill set, and that jumper he's got one of the prettiest shots in the class.
It's wicked.
It's so smooth. It's so pretty. You mentioned he just went to the corner. I hated it, and I'm blanking on the name of the point guard.
Hogard?
No, it was the other one.
Hodor?
He was he's a transfer, I believe. And I'm watching him yesterday, and I'm like, we got a guy in the lead for the Ashton Hagans Award. Early
Oh
lead.
God. Yeah.
I
I hate
didn't
that name.
Yeah, I didn't love the point guard stuff. I didn't love that Christie was just going to the corner and they weren't looking for him. They weren't trying to find him. They weren't going out of their way to get him involved in any way. And he when he did get the ball, I loved how he moved off of it, like going from one side of the floor to the other and then catching the ball and ripping straight to the hoop. Now he missed a couple of bunnies, but I don't think that it looked like his touch was off, but I do think that he's going to be more finesse than like, let me go to the line and draw fouls. I think he's going to be up and down, and the highs are going to be really high, and the lows are just going to be like he's a little bit invisible. It's not necessarily that he's playing poorly; it's just that he's not involved much. But I'm a Christie fan for sure. I like what he brings to the table.
Yeah. I'm with you. I think he's going to be awesome. And once again, like the context for me is important. Like I thought in high school, defensively, like I hated so much of what I saw. Like there was this awkwardness to him that I wasn't happy about. But he's at Michigan State now, and I think we're already seeing a little bit of that growth. And as you mentioned, if he can use that length to his benefit, then yeah, I think he can definitely become at least average as a defender. But the feet is what bothered me. I just like guys. You know what it is? Davion spoiled me last year. Now, like when I'm watching guys defensively, I'm like, do you have feet? You gonna move? Is kind of where my head's at.
Yeah, his feet are. When you compare it to Davion, his feet are a little heavy. Just a little bit heavy. But I think he'll get better on that end. It's,
Agreed.
It's his first game. And again, too, like they weren't playing a cookie cutter team. They played Kansas, and Kansas was really good. Abashi was awesome.
Dude, that guy's sick.
He was awesome. He should be. He's an older prospect playing, he has the experience and, he understood the moment playing at the Garden, all that. But I'm in on Christie. I think he's going to shoot up boards because looking at the Draftdaq official board that we dropped on No Ceilings, for the No Ceilings board, the where we averaged out all of the rankings so we could keep an actual chart this year from the beginning of the season to the end. We can actually chart prospects rise or fall throughout the year, where they were when we put together the average of the mainstream outlets boards. And Christie came in, his average cost was 30.2. He was actually the 24th prospect on the board, but his average cost ended up being 30.2, and that's because some of the boards didn't have him ranked. Some of the boards, like Tankathon, had him as high as 17. But I think he's going to stabilize to be a guy from that post-lottery to 20 range. And if he really comes in and he just starts, flame throwing, then obviously he can be a lottery guy. But I like Christie, and I think that being on him early is a good bet.
Yeah.
That's the board.
Really quickly, Corey, the one guy that I was like really wrestling with before I went with Christie was Jovic. Yeah.
I think that's going to be a popular name.
Yeah.
I have him at 20. I'm at 20 right now.
Yeah.
I'm a little iffier. I feel like part of the Jovic stuff is that he's had this internet hype for a while. When it looks good, it looks good. But there are times where it's not the highlight stuff that he does, and it's just like, I don't know what I'm getting here. But I get it. Like, he is skilled. Yeah. He's 6'10".
Big boy.
He struggled early, and that's part of it. And like, we have to give him the same leeway to get better throughout the year that we gave a guy like Hardy and some of these other prospects. But I think he's going to be like, him and Rocco are obviously going to be like darlings of the draft community on the internet. And I'm a little bit more iffy on them than I think the internet will be.
I'm with you.
but he's good. This is a deep draft. It's a deep class. It's a fun class. And I think we're going to have a lot of debate in this one and a lot of movement in this class. But it's going to be a fun process. It's going to be a fun process from start to finish, for sure.
It is November, so.
Yeah, it's November. And like we said, to put this into context, how crazy the last year has been, we are not even 365 days removed from the 2020 NBA draft.
That's
It didn't
crazy.
even happen a year ago. We're not there yet. It was like November 29th.
That's actually sick.
It's unbelievable. Like, and we're already like in the next season. It's crazy. But such is life. And it has made this podcast very interesting. So I'm thankful for that at the very least.
Same.
All right, Albert, you got a big piece dropping tomorrow, which will be November 11th. Your first solo piece for No Ceilings. Tell everybody what you're writing about tomorrow.
Yeah, dude. Thank you first off for letting me talk about it. I'm excited, dude. It's my first taking out the trash bi-weekly column. I'm gonna try to do it every other week and put it up there. And I want it to be a column where I talk about the stuff that I'm kind of into at the moment, you know. And so, as I was prepping for the column, I was like, I'm really into the shooters in this draft class. Like, I think there's some really beautiful, awesome looking shooters. So the main focus is on PBJ, Caleb Houston, and Max Christie. But, you know, there are a couple other names in there that I threw in as like honorable mentions. And yeah, like I hope you guys enjoy it. It's a lot of it is like nonsense and just my brain kind of thrown on the page. But I hope you guys enjoy it. A lot of Succession references. So if you're into Succession, you might like this one. But yeah, it's my first column. I'm like kind of nervous, but yeah, please be nice to me or not. It's okay. I'm ready for it all.
It's going to be great. I already know. I haven't read it yet because I want to read it when it goes live, but I did see some of like the GIFs and the videos and stuff that you threw in, and I'm excited for it. You're coming up, you got the momentum, right? You're flying high right now. You mentioned it on the Draft Capital pod, like Koreans are the wave right now.
Let's go.
And you are the number one draft expert in that entire community. Soak that in.
A gigantic community. So
put that into perspective. And you know, you're coming off your podcast. You got your first solo article for No Ceilings. You are bringing the heat right now, my friend. Your star is on the rise. I'm very happy, very proud, and excited for all the garbage time Gim taking out the trash articles that are coming out this year. That's what's going to make No Ceilings, man. If you haven't subscribed to the Substack, you got to go subscribe to this Substack.
Yeah, what are you doing?
Maybe you're just reading it every day, like following the links on Twitter, but one day, like, you're going to miss the postings because the algorithm's stupid. Just get it sent to your email. You know, it's a newsletter. It'll go right to your inbox. It's noceilings.substack.com. Me, Albert, Nathan from Draft Deeper, Tyler from Backcourt Violation, other Tyler Metcalf, who has been on, and he was our first guest on the show. Evan, Nick. I mean, who else? Is there anybody else? Alex.
Yeah.
Draft Film School. The team is absolutely loaded, man. And we've Monday through Friday, we're posting something draft related every day from one of us or multiples of us. I mean, it's the best draft content around. So sub to it. Not me.
Yes, sir.
All right. Where else on the internet can people find you, Albert?
You find me at Garbage Time Gim, at Alberto Gim. Find me on those. I try to be entertaining, but I generally just entertain myself. So if you're into that, come join me.
All right. You can follow me at Corey Tulaba, and you'll find all of the links there. You could subscribe to the NBA Draft Dude YouTube channel. We passed 4K today. Your boy's in HD. So we're on to the goal to 5,000 subscribers, and after 5, we're looking at 10. It's going to be a big year for the channel. Now that games are coming, that means the first film session of the season is coming pretty soon, and the game will change.
Oh boy.
Yeah, the game will change. That's all I'm
Plot
saying.
twist.
I'm very excited. I think I'm really going to set the bar for the YouTube world and these prospect breakdowns, at least creatively. Hopefully my analysis is on point as well, but creatively for sure. All right, that's going to do it for this episode. The Big Board version 1, November 10th, 2021. Very early. We'll have a bunch of these come out during the year, but not too many. We're not going to flood your, feeds with big boards and whatnot. I think maybe, once we get to like a quarter way through the NBA season, maybe we'll do like a mock draft that will have more games for the college kids, a better idea of which teams are actually going to be good and which teams are going to be bad in the NBA. So we'll do like a mock draft in, like game 20 or so for the NBA, right? I think that sounds good. All right, guys, thank you for rocking with us. We did it. Another episode, the Draftdaq NBA Draft Podcast. We out. Peace.